Tim Hardaway is going to be inducted into the 2022 Hall of Fame class for the Basketball Hall of Fame. And just his career accolades are that he was a 5-time NBA All-Star, 3-time All-NBA second team, and he actually made All-NBA first team in 1997. He also had an All-NBA third team in 1993. So I think he's made a total of 5 All-NBA teams total, which is, pretty impressive. 5 NBA All-Star appearances. Usually my criteria is that you need to have a minimum of 6 All-Star appearances, but he's on the fringe, so it could go either way for him. But I would say just my memories of Tim Hardaway just starts off during the early 90s. So I didn't get to see like the first part of Run TMC with him. I just remember I think it was 1992 when I first saw him play, because I didn't start watching basketball until late in 1991. So that was really my first introduction to Tim Hardaway. He was just pretty amazing when I first saw him play as a kid. He was very short. I know they list him at 6 foot, but he looks like he could be like 5'11". Just very quick. Good at finishing at the basket. That's what I remember of the young Tim Hardaway in Golden State. He had that ability to get to the rim when the rules were much harder for a man of his size. You got to remember there was hand checking back then, so it wasn't as easy. At the start of his career in Golden State, he shot, above 45%, and then it started to slip towards the end of his time in Golden State. I think what really hurt him was the 1 year where he was out with injuries. I think he missed the whole entire 93-94 season. So it's kind of like that injury he had. I think it was the knee injury that kept him out for that year. After he came back, he was never really the same player again. He lost, I would say, a first step because he was just quicker before the injury, and you could see it that his quick step was lost, but he was still just a very effective player. And then he got traded to Miami, where he became an all-star player again. I think he made 2 all-star games while he was in Miami. Him and Alonzo set the quote-unquote Heat culture. They started it because before those two came to Miami, they were just a perennial lottery team. With those two guys, they were an elite team in the Eastern Conference. I think they got the number 1 seed at least 2 or 3 times during their stretch when playing there in Miami together. So he was part of that turnaround where he made Miami into a respectable franchise. I would say that his best game I can remember, at least playoff game in my eyes, from what I remember watching, was way back in 1997. It was the second round. It was Game 7 against the New York Knicks. That series was kind of marred by the brawl that happened in I think it was Game 5 when it happened, where P.J. Brown flipped Charlie Ward up in the air. That resulted in a huge brawl in which the Knicks really suffered because their players ran off the bench while Miami's players stayed on the bench. But it was still controversial because the Knicks were up 3-1 in that series. Miami anyways came back, and they forced a Game 7 on their home court. I would say Tim Hardaway was really, really big in that game. He was huge. Without his huge game performance, they don't win that game at that time. I remember that game he was very big. Just his stat line for that game was 38 points on 60% shooting overall from the field, 60% from three-point range. He was huge. 7 assists, 5 steals, ridiculous numbers. And they needed every bit of those points and just that high percentage because Patrick Ewing also had a great game in that series. Patrick Ewing had 37 points on 63% shooting. So if Tim Hardaway didn't play big in that game, I think Miami would have lost that Game 7. So he was huge in that moment. But I think that was the best moment he had in Miami just as a player, was just that Game 7. And it never, ever got better for him after that, really, because the next 3 years they would be owned by the Knicks in the playoffs, and he fell short in every series. You could tell his age had finally caught up to him around that time period, because I just remember in crucial games against the Knicks, he would get outplayed by Charlie Ward or Chris Childs in the fourth quarter when they really needed him to step up big. So he started to fade away, and I just remember the final nail in the coffin was way back in 2001 when Baron Davis just took him to school in the playoffs, just straight up embarrassed him, humiliated him. This series, I think Miami was like the number 3 seed and the Hornets were the 6th seed, and the Hornets opened a can of whoop ass on them. I think it was at the time the biggest upset in NBA history when you looked at the seedings. Just the Hornets won by like a huge margin of victory. Every game they beat them by like over 20 points. Baron Davis just mauled him. Just you could tell that Hardaway was just washed up by that point because it got so bad that Tim Hardaway didn't even play, I believe at the time, game 3. And you got to remember, this was like back when the first round was best of 5. Just he was embarrassed that badly. So I think that was the low point of his career. And he would play a few more years after that, but he was just playing for money, just more than anything. But he was pretty much done. So that was his career in his nutshell. Tim Hardaway, I will give him credit. Just he created the killer crossover. Just that move was revolutionary. You had other guys who would copy it in later years, Allen Iverson, and I think Dwayne Wade had his own version of it earlier in his career. But Tim Hardaway was a creator of that move, so you got to give it to him. And I do believe if he played in this current NBA, he would be even better. Just the rules would favor him today, being a little man. He would get a lot of touch fouls, and his handle was great in the old era. In this era, where they hardly called travel, anything goes. He would be amazing. Just he would be able to get to anywhere on the court with ease and just easily get in the paint for buckets. So that's how great he was. Just amazing player, and just congratulations to him. And I look forward to seeing him get into the Hall of Fame tomorrow. So that's all I have to say about him.